Hello and welcome to the Invention Batch 2 Dev Diary with myself, Mod Ollie.
I'm Mod Deg.
And I'm Moderator.
And we're from the Eternals who are working on Expansion 2. So, Deg, why don't you take us through what our goals for the Invention update are?
For Batch 2, we'd like to address the parts of the skill that people have been telling us feel unfinished. We want to tie up those loose ends, and at the same time we want to address some of your frequent feedback about sort of the friction points of the skill. We want to really bring in some quality of life updates. For example, there are lots of requests for things like a gizmo bag. So we're investigating ways that we can streamline gizmo storage, free up some of your bank spaces.
And that was from a Reddit post we read just the other day and thought, we'll add that in. So
yeah,
we're looking at all the Reddit posts and things like that.
Yeah.
Another example would be the idea of extracting gizmos from their items. So at the moment you can sacrifice either the item or the gizmo. Obviously that's not perfectly ideal. So we're thinking about a way of separating those from each other. So that would allow for hot fixing of gizmos. You can have some gizmos which are for your Slayer stuff, which you can say if you've got a really good gizmo for one weapon and you want to put it onto another weapon, you don't need to reinvest that money into creating that gizmo again. Yeah. You can just use the separator on it, take it off, keep the weapon as well, and then just use it onto the new weapon.
Yeah, so it lets you keep a set of gizmos for this is my Slayer set, this is my set for Boss A and for Boss B, without necessarily having to buy second scythe, second staff, things like that.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to be doing it as a benefit for leveling up a weapon. So you still have to have some investment in
Absolutely.
it to make these weapons sort of a bit more of yours.
Yes.
While we're on the subject of improvements, are there any other improvements we're looking to make?
For new devices and blueprints going forward, we're probably going to remove inspiration costs. There's been a lot of problems with them in the past, and it was a good idea, and it's part of the identity of the skill, but in practice it's sort of not really held up to scrutiny. So we're probably going to not include those costs going forward. Mm-hmm. And if there are any more improvements or problems that people have, absolutely tweet, post.
So if you want to tweet us directly, I'm at JagXOllie, at JagXDeg, and at Deg and Erator.
Yep.
So just our mod names. So obviously we're looking to complete the skill. Yep. So it's worth us talking about what things we don't think we need more of. What do we think Invention doesn't need to become complete?
Yeah, so one of the big things at the moment is that there's a lot of components. There's components for seemingly every type of item in game, from noxious to base to everything. There's already enough in there that we don't need to add any more, because otherwise it's just going to become even more cluttered than it currently is.
Mm-hmm. It's a comprehension problem.
Sure.
Where do these components come from? The more there are, the harder it is to sort of remember.
Exactly. And actually making them have an impactful use as well. So there's some components which they only have perhaps one use in game, and it's not really that impactful, right?
Yeah.
So we want to keep the amount of components we've got at the moment, so we won't be adding any more of those.
We also don't feel like we need any more perks. We've already got quite a lot. We're still probably going to continue releasing them alongside other content, but it's not what Batch 2 needs to finish the skill off.
Yeah.
It'll probably come later.
Yeah, that's more of a reward space for future content.
Exactly.
And finally, we won't be looking at adding any new tech trees. Before we do anything with tech trees in the future, we want to revisit how they actually currently work in game. They're not quite what we was hoping they would be, and there are definitely improvements that could be made. Those improvements won't be coming with Invention Batch 2. So all of the new devices that we'll be getting with this update will be available as soon as you hit that level.
So there's some gaps in the skill. Where do we think those gaps are?
The most obvious one is 99 to 120. The end of the skill mostly sort of exists because we tell you it does.
Yeah.
There's not really any reason to go past 99. Some of the things we're going to be adding are high-level devices. We want these to feel impactful and powerful, and we're really looking at player suggestions for them.
There was a Reddit post from, I hope I'm getting this right, Fodraco. A lot of suggestions on there about what Invention could do for new devices. We did find 3 or 4 really good ideas that came out of his suggestions as well, which will hopefully be getting implemented. We won't say which ones, but yeah, we are definitely looking for any suggestions that you guys have. They do have to be high-level, impactful devices that we don't want to make a an item, say 115 invention, just because there's a gap there. We want it to feel like it should be 115 invention,
Yeah,
right?
it's worth leveling up
Yeah.
to get.
It's probably worth mentioning that while we want it to be impactful, we don't want to break the game.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the suggestions I have seen do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be in some way balanced as well. We
Yes.
can't just add things that are going to be ridiculously overpowered.
Of course.
As cool as it would be to turn into a giant dragon, changes the game a little too.
Invent shape-shifting.
Yeah.
So what about gaps for leveling items, for instance?
So obviously there's not at the moment any reason to level your equipment or tools above level 12. And in fact, you only go to level 12 if you're going to siphon them. I know loads of people who are like, oh no, my rod's level 11.
Yeah, I did it yesterday. I went 20k over level 12 and thought, I could have been a quarter of the way to the next the next siphon by now.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you know, there's a bit of remorse in there by missing that notification.
We're not necessarily going to solve that for everyone.
We want to make it more desirable to level those.
Yeah.
Level
There's
those
going to be
items up.
reasons to do it. You're going to feel compensated if you do it.
But obviously, what we want to do is make it desirable to level items up.
Yes. So an important thing to say is that I've got a few goals that I want to hit with benefits when you level an item up. I don't necessarily want you to always feel like I want to level all of my items to level 20 because that's a huge time investment. The free guidelines that I've got for post item level 10 benefits are that there should be no more siphon or disassembly bonuses.
Yep.
We don't want you to feel like you have to spend hours and hours and hours to get your item to level 20 because that's the best place to disassemble it because that's such a slow cadence of getting actual invention levels.
Yep.
And on that sort of point, we don't want it to feel like it's so powerful that you have to do the same thing. If you get your scythe to level 20 and it does double damage, then that's what high level PVM turns into, is waiting to level your item up so that you can get into any groups or you can do the fastest kills. And the final one, which is a little bit more difficult, I guess, to define for this dev diary, is that they need to be reasonable to implement. We can't spend months on making these benefits. So a lot of the suggestions are things like, I want to unlock a grander version of my augmented item, and that means making a new model for
tons and tons
for
of
every
items.
single augmentable item in game, right?
It's just-
and that's
it's
if
not
there's only
reasonable for us to
one
do.
variant, and
Yes.
plus there's all the dyed ones.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we're doing Invention Batch 2 to come with an entire expansion as well. So we've got to think about how we can actually do that.
Yes, and do we feel like adding that much cosmetics makes the skill more complete? I don't really think so. Another common suggestion is adding a bonus level to all of the perks on the item, which is an okay idea, but is quite powerful again. And for the perks that don't have multiple ranks, that means we need to go back and retrofit them to support it. For the ones that were designed with the assumption that they would never go past this point, we have to go back through all of those and retest all of those.
Yeah.
So that sort of would violate a couple of those guidelines.
Yeah.
So obviously they've got our guidelines now. They shouldn't be too powerful, shouldn't give a bonus for siphoning, and should be reasonable to implement. So if you want to make suggestions, follow those guidelines, and that would be really helpful to us.
Yeah.
Please do.
Right, so what way are we going to expand the skill? What new things are we going to be adding to Invention?
Yeah, so this is something that's come up a lot. We don't just want to fill it out, we also want to add to it as well. And the thing that came up most commonly was this idea of machines. So for the most part, what machines will be is they'll take some form of input, and then over time they'll then produce an output. A good example of this would be something like a junk disassembler. So you'd put in, say, 50,000 of an item, and then over the course of a week, it will then disassemble all of that into its relevant components, so that you don't have to stand there at a bank and just continuously disassemble things.
So it's taking tedious tasks off of your hands.
Yeah, those arduous and tedious tasks, it's helping to alleviate them slightly.
And obviously, like, we don't necessarily want to see like huge bits of machinery, just like, you know, big metal boxes and things in RuneScape. Like, it's a little bit out of the sort of medieval fantasy period. So they could be themed towards things like golems or anything that could fit really. So they fit nicely within the lore of RuneScape.
I like the idea of having like a golem man with like a furnace in his belly, and he like pulls all your
scooping them in and
scoops it in,
shooting them out of his mouth. So like even things like that we could use suggestions for, because golems are the strongest one we've kind of got at the moment, I think. How are players going to be discovering machines?
Yeah, so obviously we've got the blueprint system for devices. We're going to keep along that theme of blueprints. So the machines themselves will be discovered by discovering a blueprint. With the removal of inspiration from all of the devices, and with these new blueprints also having no inspiration required, we don't want to just give them to the players straight away. We want to have some form of interaction with game content. Obviously this is coming with an expansion where there's going to be a lot of game content for them to interact with.
You see something in the expansion, you're like, oh, I've got an idea. Sort of thing. You're inspired.
Yeah, you pick it up and then you can sort of reverse engineer how it was made, and then you get a blueprint from that which you can then discover at your workbench.
I mean, some of them will just be available.
Yeah, of course.
Some of them will be regular blueprints. And if you're already a high level invention, you will log in on release day and have a nice new list of things to work on your workbench immediately.
Yeah. But say there'll be perhaps the more powerful ones that we'll put behind something else, an extra layer.
Or the special ones that work a little bit strange.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, I think we've covered everything we wanted to there. We've gone through what things we are going to be improving on in the skill, what things we're not going to be adding. We've gone through 10 plus benefits for items, level 99 to 120 content, and we even talked about machines a little bit. So you guys know the kind of stuff we're planning. We've told you exactly where to put your suggestions forward, how to find us on Twitter and things like that. So please don't be shy, give us all your ideas, and we look forward to hearing them.